2026 is just a few weeks away, so right now is the perfect time to think about what cosplay habits you want to improve upon or change next year. Hi everyone, my name is Hannah. I'm a cosplayer with 10 years experience, and I talk about cosplay, conventions, and anything that's kind of related to those. I'm actually working on a cosplay right now while I talk, so unlike my previous Vlogmas videos, I don't have my antler headband on just because I'm worried it's gonna slide off my head while I'm looking down to check my work. So with 2026 approaching, I've been thinking about what kind of cosplay habits I want to improve upon next year. And I hope that with this video, I influence at least one other person to reflect on their habits and decide what they want to try and change going forward. So the first habit that I am trying to stay away from and improve upon is impulse buying cosplay stuff. And there's really two sides to this habit. The first is more so to do with seeing something new or watching or reading, playing something new. Gacha games, for instance, will release characters quite a bit. And it's impulse getting cosplays because I saw a new thing and I now must cosplay this new thing. There's 4 bags of cosplay supplies just off screen that were purchased mostly as part of Black Friday sales from previous years. And I will say that some of them were impulse cosplays in the sense that there were things that caught my attention and I had to get cosplay stuff for them. One of them, for example, that I can see is the tealish yarn for a certain mahjong player from Honkai Star Rail. I bought that yarn the year the game out. I bought that yarn the year the game came out, and all that I've done with it since then is move it around my cosplay yarn bins and bring it here. So that was definitely an impulse cosplay purchase. And while there is some stuff that I actually do things with when they're impulse purchases, I feel like a lot of my cosplay supplies will kind of just end up sitting there until I remember that I have it, because I didn't really plan to do much with it, and it was more of an impulse securing of supplies rather than looking at my upcoming conventions and saying, oh, I want to make it for this convention or I want to compete with it. The other side of impulse buying is planning to get cosplay supplies based upon the fact that there's a sale going on. So looking at those 4 bags of cosplay supplies over there, I see at least 2 cosplays worth of stuff that were purchased because of Black Friday sales. If you remember from years prior, the really excellent Joanne sales, I know for a fact that I would plan out cosplays that I would get stuff for because I knew of the sales coming up. And it wasn't necessarily cosplays that I planned on making and I decided to get because I knew that there was a sale. It's more so I knew there was a sale coming up, so I would sit down and say, oh, there's a sale coming up, I should take advantage and get a bunch of cosplay supplies. And I would end up buying more than I would end up using in a year just because I would try and take advantage of the sale rather than getting stuff that I planned on using. And I hope that long, convoluted sentence makes sense. I guess a simplified way of saying it is, instead of planning cosplays and then buying them because I already worked them in my schedule, I would see that there was a sale coming up and I would plan on getting cosplay supplies without actually logistically looking at what my plans are for the year and deciding to work them into the schedule. So because of that, I now have so many cosplays worth of stuff. This is over here off screen, just what I brought with me, but I feel like those two together were 2 halves of the same whole of a bad habit of impulse purchases. And something that I've started doing to prevent impulse purchasing when I'm out is I implemented a rule for myself that I call photos, not purchases, where the first time that I see something, I will take a photo of it. Sometimes I'll text it to someone, but sometimes I'll just take the photo and save it on my phone. And if I come back to it a week later and I still have that same drive to get it, then I will end up getting it. But most of the time, I don't have that same impulse just because I have the photo saved, so I don't end up purchasing it. Usually this works very well, and I end up using it a lot in stores like TJ Maxx or Home Goods, where they'll have the cute little Hello Kitties and Sanrio stuff that I love. The only time that I've not used it in recent memory was, ironically enough, at a TJ Maxx, because they had their reusable bags and I didn't bring any reusable bags with me. And they had one that had a doggy knitting on it. And I was like, oh, a dog that knits, that's so cute. But other than that, it's worked out very well. I now have several photos of various Hello Kitty mugs saved to my phone. So impulse purchasing for cosplays is bad. Impulse purchasing in general is bad. And that is definitely a habit that I want to tackle next year for cosplays. That was long-winded. Second bad habit is I will try and con crunch for contests. So tomorrow I'm going to a holiday anime event. I'm very excited for it. The friends that I know that I'm gonna see there, I haven't seen in a few months. So I'm very excited to see them, get to hang out with them, go to the event, all that good stuff. And while I knew that I was probably going for a while, I decided that I wasn't going to compete in the contest. Part of it is because I am going to Holiday Matsuri this year, and I'd rather work on stuff for Holiday Matsuri than crunch out something for a smaller event. And then part of it was also, before I'd say even today-ish, I wasn't even 100% sure if I would be cosplaying at the event or even going at all. And I was really only able to commit to it more fully this week. So for about the past month, I've been okay with the fact that I'm not planning on competing. But today, when I was getting ready for work, I suddenly had the thought of, wow, the event's tomorrow, I could probably crunch out something new for the contest. And keep in mind that even though I have all the stuff off screen over here, I don't really have anything that can be quickly put together. So that means that I would have to go to some store around here and find stuff that can be quickly thrown together for the contest tomorrow. Regardless if it's a sewing project, a crochet project, foam, what have you, I know that I would probably spend all night staying up and working on it. Could I probably finish it? Yes, I think that it would be doable. And this morning again, while I was getting ready, I found myself getting talked into going out, spending money on a cosplay just for the sake of being able to crunch it out and hopefully have something usable for a competition tomorrow. And I felt like I was nearly convinced, and then I paused and I was like, wait, I gotta think this through. And I thought about it and I was like, okay, so let's say I go out and I find stuff to crunch out this cosplay. So that means that I have to, after work, go to the store, find all the stuff, possibly go to a second or third store to find anything that I couldn't find at the first store, come home, grab dinner, get out of my work clothes, and then spend all night putting together a cosplay. So this means sewing, foam smithing, painting, whatever, and then probably staying up for most, if not all, the evening doing that. And then the next day, getting dressed, getting in the car, driving to the event, and then spending time at the event, and then competing. And the more I thought about it, the more it seemed to be a bad decision and unappealing, because logistically, could I pull it off? Probably. But again, the more I thought about it, I was like, oh, I'll be up all night working on it, so I'll probably be in a bit of a mood at the very least, or tired at the event. And I'm probably not going to enjoy myself because I'll be so tired and I'll probably have an exhaustion headache. And the whole time I'll be like, oh man, I made this cosplay. This better go well. I really hope nobody can tell that I made this tonight or made this the night prior. And I feel like I wouldn't be able to fully enjoy the event since I would be so tired and so focused on the fact that I crunched out a cosplay in however many hours that just thinking about it, I managed to talk myself out of it. And I think part of it is because I do a lot of performance entries, and not to say that performance is easier than craftsmanship. I think they're both difficult in their own way. I will say that performance can be crunched out a lot quicker, or at least for me, I could put together a performance a lot quicker than I could put together a craftsmanship entry. And that's because I've been playing instruments for a while and I arrange my own music, and I find that a lot quicker than patterning out and crocheting stuff. So I think it kind of stems from that. But what this long-winded tale is meant to say is that something that I really want to try and tackle for 2026 is con crunch, which I think will be a bit of a challenge since everyone I know always says, oh, I'm never gonna con crunch again. And then 3 months later, they're posting on Instagram stories about how they're con crunching out this, that, and the other for whatever big convention they have coming up. But more specifically, I'm trying to avoid con crunching for contests or putting stuff together last minute just in hopes of competing. I want to be more deliberate about competing, and that doesn't necessarily mean competing fewer times, because I do have a pretty aggressive competition schedule, but more so not tackling on competitions and last minute entries just for the sake of having another competition under my belt. The third thing that I want to work on for 2026 would probably be how I approach social media as a cosplayer. So recently it was my 10-year cosplaying anniversary, and it really got me thinking about how I used to approach conventions and making cosplays when I was in high school versus how I approach things now. And one thing that was vastly different about cosplay for me in high school versus now is that I wasn't really allowed to have social media growing up. I think the closest was probably the fact that I had an email. But because of that, I feel like I would spend a lot more time at conventions chatting with people, in the sense that if I saw a cosplay that I liked, or a wig or a prop, I would make sure to go up and tell them, because I knew that I wouldn't have that chance any other way. Like, I know at conventions now, it's very easy to see someone and then find them again online, but if you don't have social media, you don't really have that option. And even though I feel like social media removes that barrier of talking to people, in the sense that you don't need to physically be with someone to talk to them, there's almost a second invisible layer behind it. Just because I feel like when I was younger and chatting with people face to face about cosplay stuff, I was a lot more I would talk with them a lot more and compliment people or ask questions a lot more than I do when I see their cosplays online. In person, at in-person events when I was younger, I know that I would definitely chat with people, whereas now I feel like when I'm scrolling online, if I see a cosplay that I like, or I see something that I want to ask about, I usually don't end up commenting. I know that I'll usually like stuff, but I won't comment. And I'm not really sure why. I think it's just force of habit because of how social media is designed. And I know that's a whole nother can of worms, but I think one thing that I do want to work on is trying to be more social on social media. The cosplay community has so many talented cosplayers who use social media as a way to connect with others and share their hard work. And I feel like it's a bit of a detractor to not use that chance to chat with others you might not otherwise to the fullest. So something that I do want to try and work on is, I guess, commenting on other people's stuff more. And I don't mean empty comments where you're kind of just trying to meet a quota. I mean genuinely stuff that I would say to people at a convention, just making sure to comment it. Whether it's saying that I like the wig styling, or their, I don't know, sewing looks really neat, or they have really clean lines on their foam builds, or if it's a progress video, maybe asking how they did something. And I'm willing to bet at least someone else probably feels like this too, where they would probably say the comments or ask the questions if they saw it in person, but because it's online for some kind of reason, it just doesn't happen. Like, you look at the cosplay, you think, wow, that looks neat. You hit the like button, just scroll on. So Anyways, another meandering tangent. I do want to try and be more social on social media. I think that as a general whole, social media is very beneficial for cosplay just because it allows you to see cosplayers from all around the world and connect with cosplayers from all around the world, and you get to experience a lot that you normally wouldn't at a convention. And don't get me wrong, conventions are great. I'm going to one later this year. I've been to so many, but I feel like at conventions sometimes you're just running around so much doing things, trying to get all your convention things done, that you don't have the chance to actually take the time and look at someone's cosplay, or maybe take the chance to ask them how they made things. And social media is really good for that. But social media only works if you participate in it fully, kind of like how events only work if people participate. So I do want to try and work on that. So I believe that's it for today's video. I'll show you my progress. This is going to be part of a panel for outer robe. Oh, you can't see it. There we go. Yay. I have a lot more to do with this. And then, oh, also, because I finished it yesterday and I'm very proud of it, if you're still here, I'm gonna give a brief tour of my figures that I brought with me. So I'm gonna leave the camera here, but I'll point out these different boxes. I got them online, and they're these acrylic boxes that have little hinges. But you know what, I'll just show you. Let's go field trip. If you've made it this far, welcome to the tour. So I have these acrylic boxes over here that have my figurines. And I chose these because they're lightweight, they're easy to put apart, they're easy to put together, take apart, but also they have these little hinged doors that have magnets, so it's super easy to open them up and move things around. So when I got these, I was originally planning on putting stuff in a slightly different layout. Something that I do whenever I place at a convention is I get a figurine to celebrate, and up until now it's mostly been Miku's, but for Kenshoku-con, because I got a figurine in the box, I'm using that as my little winning figurine. But the Miku's that I bought to celebrate wins didn't all fit in the same container, so that kind of shaped how things worked. So let me see, I'll start at the bottom. So down here we have the mostly Miku's bin, because there's a tiny little Luca right there, but this one is mostly Miku figurines. And then next to it we have the Heaven's Official Blessing bin, and these are more, I'd say, medium figurines, but the other thing is that these are all a lot heavier than they look, and I wasn't sure if I was going to do a second Heaven's Official Blessing bin above it, so I wanted to make sure that these heavier ones were on the bottom. And then over here are the other Heaven's Official Blessing figurines. So these are all my really tall and really short ones, just so that way there's enough space to actually see all of them. They could all fit in the same container, but I noticed that when I put them close together, you couldn't see them, so that's how they got split up. And then, just pointing it out, this back here is the only figurine in here, at least in this bottom row, that was an artist figurine. The rest of these are all official figurines. So then moving up in the world, we have, I'll do the Genshin ones first. So these are the Genshin figurines that have the characters in their official outfits. These are all official figurines aside from the Arlecchino, which I got in Artist Alley. And then these over here are more so the specialty skins. I know I'm cheating a bit with the Raiden because she's in the anniversary art, but I figured that fit the theme, and she also didn't really fit in the regular skins bin, so that's why she's in there. Fun fact about me, I have actually played the standing bass that Eula's playing in there, and I was so excited to see the figurine of this that I grabbed it instantly and put it in my little shopping bag. Over here we have the Sanrio bin, where it's mostly Sanrio Miku's. However, there is one of Nozomi from Love Live.
but this is all Sanrio's. And then, let me see, above it we have the miscellaneous bin, where it's kind of all miscellaneous stuff. We got some Yuri on Ice, we got some Honkai Star Rail, Peanuts, Scum Villain, and Sailor Moon. So out of these figurines, the Sitting Kafka and then the 2 Scum Villain ones are artist figurines, and the rest are all official. Skipping over the centerpiece, right over here we have more Mikus. So these are all official Miku figurines. The middle Miku is the one that I got to celebrate my win at Anime Boston, and then the rest were all purchased at other events. This was actually the first Miku figurine that I got, the red Wonderland one, and I got her to celebrate the fact that I got Best Performance at Toricon. And then in the center, I didn't want to put them in a bin, just because I'm not sure if I'm going to keep them there or end up putting them somewhere else, but I have my Anime Boston 2025 Masquerade Award and my little Kenshoku-Con Award being held by the platelet figurine that I got in my mystery box. So this is my little figurine tour. This is not all of them. This is just the ones that I ended up bringing with me. I have a few that I didn't want to pack up and bring just because I wanted to take them apart and put them in their boxes, and all these were transported in tissue paper. But this is the result of a few years of collecting, so I'm very proud of how it looks. I think they look really nice. It's kind of like an interesting staple piece, or not staple piece, statement piece. So yay, tour.
Welcome back from the figurine tour, but that just about wraps up today's video. Is there anything that I listed that you think you'd want to improve on for next year? Is there anything that I didn't list that you want to improve on? Comment down below and let me know, and who knows, maybe we do have some similar goals. But anyways, that'll be it. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!